Ladies and gentlemen, it's that time again. Irv has to work harder to get my good side these days. Not as good as it once was. Immediate past President Sheila, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And before everybody sits down, if we could have, if you're still standing, appreciate that. In the back, if you're still standing, just a quick moment. It is 9/11. It's been more than 20 years. And if I can have just a moment of silence. Thank you. All right, up next, gentleman and lady.
Hello, folks. For a song today, we know that Alan is going to give us a great talk about old Livermore. And old Livermore is cattle country. So we thought we'd sing the old Chisholm Trail with you. Come on, 2, 3, 4. Oh, come a tie, yippee, yippee, yay, yippee, yay, come a tie, yippee, yippee, yay. Come, boys and girls, and listen to my tale. Tell you about the travels of the old Chisholm Trail. Come a tie, yippee, yippee, yay, yippee, yay, come a tie, yippee, yippee, yay. Well, I started up the trail October 23rd. Started up the trail when you two heard. Come a tie, yippee, yippee, yay, yippee, yay, come a tie, yippee, yippee, yay. $10 horse and a $40 saddle. Started out punching them longhorn cattle. Come a tie, yippee, yippee, yay, yippee, yay, come a tie, yippee, yippee, yay. With my seat in the saddle and my hand on the horn, I'm the dang cowboy that ever was born. Come a tie, yippee, yippee, yay, yippee, yay, come a tie, yippee, yippee, yay. It's cloudy in the west, looking like rain. My dang old slickers in the wagon again. Come a tie, yippee, yay, yippee, yay, come a tie, yippee, yippee, yay. No chaps, no slickers, and it's pouring down rain. I swear I'll never night burn again. Come a tie, yippee, yippee, yay, yippee, yay, come a tie, yippee, yippee, yay. Well, my song is done and I'm Livermore bound. The greatest folks in the greatest town. Come a tie, yippee, yippee, yay, yippee, yay, come a tie, yippee, yippee, yay. Again, come a tie, yippee, yippee, yay, yippee, yay, come a tie, yippee, yippee, yay. Ah!
All of you catch the reference there to YouTube in the middle of, yeah, and I just never knew that they were sort of in this particular song. I know a lot of YouTube songs, but not that one. All right, thought for the day, Mr. Michaels, you are up.
So I tried to come up with some thoughts related to the good old days in Livermore. So here goes. Livermore's past, like many towns in California, is rooted in the pioneer spirit of the Old West with a mixture of rugged individualism, lawlessness, and later scientific innovation, which is we've had in Livermore. Those wild old days may have faded, but their spirit lingers in the stories we tell, reminding us that life is best lived with a bit of chaos, adventure, and freedom. Just as in Rotary today, we learned that true impact comes from unity, service, and embracing change. These spirits fuel our drive to create a better world, one act of service at a time. Paul Thompson was going to critique it. Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Paul.
Creating a better world, one act at a time. I like that a bunch. All right, our meeting front line. We've got Tim taking the Spur Reporter and Ted's doing the Spur Publisher. Make sure you put in some nice words in there about the thought of the day, Ted. The photographer again is Irv. Audiovisual was going to be Joel, but it's not Joel because Joel's taking care of his wife at the doctor and Dennis has stepped in. So yay, service above self there. Thank you, Dennis. Appreciate stepping in at the very last moment. And we've got greeter Don and Zoom host Jeff. Jeff's everything okay out there in Zoom land? All right. All right. And our sergeants at arms, I think both Trex and Bob are in the back. There we go. If you have not bought your tickets for the raffle, please do so early and often. Our web mavens, Kathy Coyle, and public outreach is Kelly Bowers. All right. Up next. Introduction of visiting Rotarians and guests. Let's first go on to Zoom. Do we have anyone at all who is visiting us from any way, shape, or form there? No visitors at all. No Rotarians, no visitors. Inside the room here, how about visiting Rotarians? Do we have any visiting Rotarians? Okay, we have no visiting Rotarians. Seeing none, I'll move on to guests. Do we have any guests here? Yes, JR, you brought a guest.
I did. I found him outside wandering around.
Oh, that is so sweet. Again, service above self. That just shows we are givers.
Yes, we are. Anyways, President and fellow Rotarians, I'd like to introduce Dimitri Kaplanis. He is the owner of Dimitri's Restaurant in town.
Ooh.
I'll also throw a plug in there. You may see lawn signs out there say that have that last name. His wife Dina is running for the school board.
Welcome. Do we have any other? Yes. Yes, we do have one more.
Yeah, no, I was so excited. I sat down next to me. I've seen a number of times here. I didn't realize Mary Dyer is actually an incredible volunteer for Rotary. I sit down and meet her, and she looks at me. She goes, "Roland, what activities do you have coming up that I could volunteer for within our?" I said, and so we literally sat here, gave her the dates. She is all in as a volunteer. I'm so impressed by her and just her desire to serve others as a Rotary, as a friend of Rotary.
Do we have any other guests in the room? All right, moving on here. Announcements. Let's slip one in here first. Glenn, do you have an announcement if we back up for just a second here because you were an unauthorized late ad?
Late ad.
Yes,
So-
but you have a good reason to be a late ad.
President Mark and fellow Rotarians and a guest. So this year I took over the Ready program from Bob Cowan, who's been doing it many years. Ready is Rotarians educating and directing youth. And it's the two key things that we attempt to do is to serve as mentors in a long-term way, but also as tutors in a more tactical way with kids that are, for whatever reason, having challenges in middle school. And as a point that I made a couple of weeks ago is that what we're finding, the Ready mentors who are volunteering, is that our middle school students are just woefully, mind-bendingly falling behind in education, largely as a result of the pandemic. And in particular, kids with challenges, whatever they be, home life, language, and so on. And yet the number of Ready mentors has fallen precipitously. So Lori Valenzuela, our teacher, has now increased the size of the cohort of students to about 20. And on Monday, we had 3 or 4 mentors, and that was a lot. So one of the issues that we've had is that our students, many, but not all, are not proficient in English. And some of the Ready mentors have expressed frustration that it's difficult to communicate. So one attempt to try to help with that is that we've partnered with the Bedrosian Foundation and Maggie Tufts, and they have agreed to bring some of their high school Bedrosian scholars who are themselves bilingual to help, but also to help mentor, which will connect better with. So what I'm really here to say is to appeal, please, we need more volunteers. It's only an hour or an hour and a half on Mondays at Junction Avenue School. And even though the issues that these kids face are profound. You might think, how can I help? I'll just give you one example. On Monday, I had a young lady who is not proficient at English. And so we were working on multiplying integers, negative, positive, and I put together a little table, and she zoomed through her homework, and then she stalled because she had a multiplication problem. And I asked her how I could help her. And an older student who is bilingual said, well, she's really never learned long division. This is a 7th grader. And so I gave her an example. We solved the 2 problems. And then the young lady kind of laughed a little bit and said something to her friend. And I turned to her friend and I said, oh, what did she just say? And she said, she's never understood long division until this time. So that took a few minutes. So you will make an impact in the lives of these kids. I guarantee it. So please come out, help these kids, help the community, and have a very, very fulfilling time. And I'm sorry I used up more than 2 minutes, but really hope to see you. Contact me if you're interested, and please show up on Monday at Junction Avenue School. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Glenn. Middle school is a profoundly important time. If the students do not catch up during middle school, they are very likely to not even start high school, let alone complete high school. So this really is a critical period of time to get them within shooting distance of their classmates. And that really has implications that last years. All right, Community Service Day. Loretta, are you in the room? You are not, but Sheila was there. Sheila, tell us just a quick minute. What did we do?
Well, I want to tell you, I was so proud of our fellow Rotarians. Many of you, many of you showed up at Maynison for the dedication of the communication boards. And then you all stayed and helped at Maynison as well. Many of you went to another location and helped. So I want to thank you all so very, very much. There'll be a great press release out this Thursday in the Independent. And then Kelly Bowers is working on getting that in the Rotary magazine, because I want to see our name in the Rotary magazine. But anyway, what a great day. Thank you all so much for all of your hard work. Again, Irv taking our pictures. I think, again, Mark, great job done by all. I was very, very proud to be a part of that.
Thank you, President, Immediate Past President Sheila. Everybody who was there, that's fantastic. I also serve on the board of the LRPD Foundation, and the report back from that group was Rotary was out in force. So that made me very proud to be part of this group here. So thank you all for wearing your appropriate accoutrements so that people could understand that you were part of Rotary. And that is going to be a project that I think has a lot of positive benefits going forward. All right. We also have Sleep in Heavenly Peace beds deliveries on September 21st. If you are interested in signing up for that, go to Sleep in Heavenly Peace. They've got a website. You can sign up. That's the even more fun than building the beds is actually delivering them and seeing the reaction of those folks who will not sleep on the floor that night because of what we all did. Ooh, there we go. There's a great picture. Anything else on the communication boards other than Matt's a lot taller than you?
Yes, I noticed that. I'm very short. I will tell you what's going to be nice. Dave from LARPD is going to put a QR code on there, a tile with a QR code, so you can scan it, and there'll be a step-by-step on how to use the communication board, because not everybody, right off the bat will know, aside from maybe parents that have children that, use those at school. So there'll be a QR code put on that. And then Fred and his team they'll start putting in the other 9 parks during the week. So at one point, hopefully we'll get a list of the parks, and so we all will know where they are.
So these students who are nonverbal, essentially a lot of times come to a park and play all by themselves. And they are isolated, and they are unwilling to engage in other children because they have difficulty communicating, and it frustrates them. And their parents have sort of told them to not do that, because then a lot of times the outcome are negative. But this sort of thing will allow them to integrate, especially because other children are usually very curious about how to use this thing. So it's actually a pretty neat thing to watch somebody who's verbal and somebody who's nonverbal actually go through using this. So it's a very cool thing.
It was, the lady was showing us, it's like you talk as you point to the tiles, you're building a sentence. It was, mind boggling, as simple as it is. It's complex in its own way that it enables a student to really communicate with other kids or their parents, especially if they're having a bad day.
All righty, great. Up next, oh, no more pictures. I think we have 2, 3. Look at all those Rotarians wearing their vests. Yay. Okay, so up next, many of you will, if you've been in leadership of the club, and it feels like some days about a quarter of the club is past presidents. District starts very early with, what are your goals for your year? And as a new president, one of the questions is, well, how do we set goals? And they said, well, how are they doing on fundraising? I said, well, they're doing fantastic on fundraising. They're great. I said, how about projects? I said, oh, they're very participatory in projects. Do they invite new members? And I said, well, not as many as we'd like, but yeah, we're doing okay in that area. I says, well, you really need to figure out what are they really coming up short in? And that should be part of your goals. And I said, well, honestly, the room is filled with folks, who have high school educations, have bachelor's degrees, masters, even doctorates scattered throughout and we have some Juris doctorates as well. But even with all of that education, they're horrible with multiple choice tests. I mean, profoundly bad. And so district staff said, well, then you need to develop a goal and work on that. And so what we're going to be doing with all of you over the coming months is helping you get better at multiple choice tests. So we're going to use, essentially, to help you with that, immediate past President Sheila is going to help you set up for success on a coming multiple choice test. So Sheila?
Thank you, President Mark. So, ladies and gentlemen, as you know, I work for Livermore Sanitation. I'm the outreach manager. And in my daily activities, I go around town and I'm communicating with our businesses and special events, trying to help them do the best they can with recycling. Now, with that said, I know that this can be a very difficult thing to, I think, grasp, because unfortunately, so many items look the same, but they aren't. Now, on your tables, we're going to call this an open book test. So you're going to be able to go home with the answers, okay? So like Mark's prior presentation that he did about his
Kidneys.
kidneys.
Yeah.
And
Where there were 3 choices, and then we would cut 2 of the other answers out, and they would still be quite confused about which one was the correct one. So anyway, we're trying to improve on that.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. So what will be happening moving forward? I will bring items and we're going to decide where they go. Now, some may be obvious, some may not. And as you can see at the bottom, or could it go somewhere else? So I had to throw a little something in there. So anyway, let's just start with something simple. We're doing something very simple and then we'll move on. Now, I know that many of you, the season is here. And when you decorate or have it at Thanksgiving, pumpkins. So when you're done with your pumpkin, which one should it go in?
Okay, so
A?
So let's say A, raise your hands for A.
Yeah, raise your hands for A. Okay.
Okay, raise your hands for B.
For B. Okay.
Oh, B, okay. C.
It's C. Very good. Very good.
Yeah,
Okay.
all right.
All right. Okay.
That's not too bad.
Not
That's
too
more
bad.
than 90% of you got that one right. That was a
Right.
good one to start with.
Okay. So we're going to start one more and then
Yes,
But only real pumpkins. That was.
that was a fake pumpkin. Imagine
Well,
that was a real pumpkin.
I-
If it,
okay. I'm sorry. I should have said it was a real pumpkin because I can't keep. Yes, sir. Yes. I know they do. Ours do too. They get 2 at my house. Okay. Last one. Now, a milk carton
that's a very small milk carton. Do
I
you have
know.
very small people at your house?
at my house. Actually, this comes out of one of my games for the students at school. So milk cartons. Where do you think
Okay,
they go? Let's start.
so here we go. A, raise your hand if you think it goes in A.
Okay.
Oh, a lot of people think it goes in garbage. Okay,
All right.
very good. B,
C.
recycling. Oh,
Okay.
okay. And then C.
C, organics.
Well,
Okay.
they started out so well.
So well.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is recyclable now. Now, I will tell you why,
Recyclable as in B?
as in B.
Oh, so stunning 25% of you got that right. Well done. But didn't it used to go in green?
Okay, so here's why. If all of us remember when we were young, or at least me, when you would get milk, I would scrape the wax off the sides of the milk carton.
You're
That
an
was
odd
kind of fun.
child.
I know. I was an odd child. Ranch kid mentality, not a lot to do at breakfast. So now they put a plastic laminate on it. And unfortunately, that will not compost. So we take it and it goes in recycling and they make a low grade paper with it. So ladies and gentlemen, that is the beginning. That is the start. So I love that you're all inquisitive. Yes, sir. Because it's plastic coated, so it does not break down in the compost process.
So the way to think about that is food soiled is if the actual object absorbs the soil. The milk carton does not. That's the key. So a pizza box, yup, that goes in green.
Yep. Napkin.
Napkin, green. But anything plastic, laminated, shiny, that
Yep.
where the stuff doesn't sink into it, because then it won't
Mm.
come. But the answers to these questions and more are in your homework. Now we're going to come back once a month.
Yep.
Because we don't want to overload people.
But
Many of you, it's been a while since you've had to defend a dissertation or something. So we don't want to overload you. Okay, so we have a couple questions here. We'll start with Dennis.
I'm updating my will. And so when I die, can I be recycled instead of put into garbage?
Oh. Okay. Well, let me just tell you. Right now, in the old days
In the old days,
of Oakland Scavenger,
if you stuffed them in the green cart, we didn't ask any questions.
we didn't ask any.
But that was when they were owned by mobsters.
Yeah, so that was called the cannery run, and we just shot you out of that big cannon into the bay, so nobody would know. So
So right now there is
Oh.
no automatic recycling program, but talk to the web, because there are some places that will allow you to recycle yourself.
exactly,
All right,
Jennifer.
That's cool. But if you've already been composted in Oregon, we probably don't need to redo you in California.
Wow. Okay, that's okay. Last
right.
one, because someone brought this. Yes.
I had a
Trudy?
question. I had a question on the milk carton.
Yes.
Would there be a little recycling emblem on it?
No,
No,
I
of
don't.
course not.
No, they're not going
Okay.
to make it that easy for you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
no.
even if it has that little plastic pouring thing, it's still okay to go in there?
You know, it's still okay to go in there because it's just like it's considered part of the item, like packing tape on a cardboard box.
All righty.
Last item, because someone brought this styrofoam.
Okay, here we go. A for garbage. Oh, a lot of A's there. B for recycling. Oh, a
A.
few B's. All right. And C for compost. No C's. All right. And
And this one goes
in the
In
garbage.
A, garbage. In our program, we do not have the ability to recycle this material here in Livermore. There may be someone somewhere that can. It has to be cleaned, it has to be sorted, and it has to be trucked. So someone has to pay for all that. And unfortunately, I think you as residents here do not want to pay any more than you already do.
Oh.
So in the city of Livermore, we're not able to recycle that.
All right. Go
Thank
home.
you all.
Do your homework and we will see. We did definitely okay. We would have, as a group, passed if we had a lenient teacher. But we were right there on the jagged edge of that. You had a strong start. So again, remember, about 4 weeks from today, we're going to be back with some difficult items. Do your homework. You can also go onto the website to do that. We're trying to improve it so I can say consistently that you guys are hitting 90% of the answers, or 90% of you are getting the right answers every time. That's what I'm shooting for here on an open book test. Next. Yes, absolutely. Music scholarships, last chance here to let Sheila know if you want to be involved in us reviewing the music scholarship program. We've been doing fantastic stuff for the last 10 years. We're going through a change. And we want to make sure we're still doing fantastic things. If you have strong feelings, medium feelings, any feelings at all about the music scholarship program, give Sheila a ring. And we're going to have a couple of meetings and then launch on the new year. We're super excited about that. Up next, we're going to be drinking again. Okay. As part of the four-way test, is it liquor? Does it taste good? No, that's not the four-way test, but it sure feels like it sometimes here with Rotary. And you'll remember that on the second meeting, the second week of the month, we do essentially a winery in the evening. It's Wood Family. Sheila, tell us a little bit about what people will get if they show up to Wood Family.
All righty. Fellow Rotarians, I'm sorry, it's kind of a little last minute. I had silly me went in the hospital. So
How much planning for drinking do you need?
I know.
Even Christmas.
Yeah,
Oh,
can everybody come? Anyway, you are all invited tonight. Sonia has coordinated with Wood Family Vineyards for us to come there. They allow us to bring our snacks from 5 to 7. They're at 2407 Research Drive. And instead of going to all those different wine Wednesdays they have, we're just going to go to Wood Family. They're welcoming us. And we're very excited. So there will be light snacks, nuts, popcorn, pub mix, chocolates, whatever. Just something light. You buy your own wine. There is music from 4 to 7 if you want to come a little earlier. So we would love to see all of you. Bring your wives, friends, potential members.
girlfriends.
Yes.
Boyfriend.
There we go. Yes, Ellen.
At 7 o'clock, there's a general plan advisory committee.
So I
And-
get liquored up starting at
And
4.
that was what yes, I think that's a perfect prelude to that. If you want to have any input into what's going to happen in the city in the next 20 years, go there first and then come.
Oh, boy. All right. Thank you. Any questions? Do you all know where that is? 2407 Research?
Wood Family. All right.
Hope to see you there.
Great. Avenues of Service, October 19th. Again, if you are interested in doing this, super cool stuff. It's a long morning, as it were, and they feed you twice, both breakfast and lunch. So if you're interested at all, basically that information went out in an email. So do sign up for that. Up next, the National Ignition Facility Tour. Where's Irv? Irv, can you hand Mr. Irv a microphone?
We had a wonderful time. There were about 40 people that went, and we all learned what laser stands for. And so of those 40 people, can anybody tell us what the acronym for laser is? Yeah.
Light is at the
Light
front end.
amplification by stimulated emission by radiation or something like that. Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, we all learned it, right. And we all had a great time, right?
Okay, we may slip that one into the multiple choice tests as well. All right, that's fantastic. Look at that group. Look how smart they look all lined up there. That's amazing. Okay, up next. A new blue badge. All right, who is presenting David his blue badge this evening? All right, Dennis, you're up. You want a microphone? You got it. Right there. Very good.
Today we award David his blue badge, and he's well deserved. He's been a wonderful Rotarian since he's been with us. Now, it's absolutely appropriate that the son of a Rotary Club president should become a new Rotarian. And his father was president of Rotary Club in Israel. David, congratulations. Thank you.
Wow, the happiest of events, a new Rotarian. Nothing better. That is very cool. David, thank you very much for your commitment to the club and for giving back. 2 items from the club secretary. Needs a substitute on the September 19th board meeting if you're on the board or want to just simply come and observe. We need somebody to take some notes. That would be fantastic. So, I could ask Media Past President Sheila, but you know, anybody sort of, we'd love to have somebody to take some notes. And then finally, please sign up for club service on that. All right, next week's presentation is going to be Jeff Yunsma on the fire service, and he's even dressed appropriately today with his full regalia to show you sort of a little bit about what's coming. But before next week, there is this week, and Alan Frank is going to tell us about Livermore in the wild old days. All right, come on up, Alan. Here, just sit your stuff there. Take that computer off the table. I can do that. I need the clicker.
Okay, what I'm talking about today are tidbits from a new book I've just completed writing that has gone to the publisher and should be out in a few months. This is a book of history of Livermore and has almost, what I'm talking about today has almost nothing to do with the railroads, since I've talked about that on previous occasions. And it's completely described in my old book, and I think there might be a copy or two left on the back table, which I'm nearly out of. Okay, Robert Livermore began cattle ranching in the valley in the 1830s. He was then a Mexican citizen, and he was granted a formal Mexican land grant for Rancho Los Pasitos in 1840. He died in 1858. Alfonso Frank Ladd was a squatter on Livermore's Rancho Las Pasitas. He built a hotel and a saloon in 1864. The small settlement of Laddsville grew up around the hotel and was the only population center in the eastern part of the valley. That's fine. I have a few black slides in this. I didn't have a picture of Frank Ladd. Newspapers in San Francisco, Stockton, San Jose, and Sacramento sometimes published goings-on in the valley and in Laddsville. Most were one-liners on the back page. A few had additional one-lines in the same article, but of different issues. One of the articles said, Laddsville was a typical frontier settlement and was considered a lively town. It was said to be a slow day when only 3 fights broke out. Shootings and robberies were commonplace. Desperados, cattle rustlers, and prospectors were regular visitors. Another settler, Alexander Mesa, also built a saloon in Laddsville. He claimed in the newspaper that a saloon was more necessary than a church or a school. When the railroad was nearly completed in 1869, the Stockton Independent reported on the back page, the farmers of Livermore Valley are very busy harvesting and threshing grain crops. By the way, the ranchers did grow as much grain crops as they could once they knew the railroad would be able to take them to market. They weren't able to take grain crops to market before then. They said the crops will be 6 times greater than last year. A pet bear belonging to Doctors Knight and Sproul broke from its cage today, and running through the streets caused great confusion, but doing no damage. His bear ship was captured near Featherville. Featherville, yes. A state geologist camped overnight in Ladsville before Livermore was platted. He disagreed with the population claim of 200 residents. He noted 150 of them were dogs who barked all night. Okay. William Mendenhall had been raising horses in the hills south of the valley. The drought of 1864 devastated his horse breeding, and he moved to Santa Clara, where he raised and sold racehorses. The Bernal's Rancho El Val to San Jose was also suffering financial difficulty due to the drought and was declared bankrupt. The Bernal Rancho was surveyed and broken into over 60 plots for sale. Mendenhall probably did business with the Western Pacific Railroad officers in Santa Clara and was apparently aware of the railroad's policy that if you wanted a station at a given location, you had to give them the property for it. This is a detail of the Western Pacific Railroad's map, survey map through Livermore. The red line is the railroad. And on this map, you can see Livermore's house, Ladd's Hotel, Livermore's Pass, and they labeled it Livermore Plains. He recognized that Bernal Plot 18, adjacent to Rancho Las Positas, was to be crossed by the railroad, and he acquired it shortly after the Western Pacific became part of the Transcontinental Railroad project. Mendenhall gave property to the railroad for a station, and he registered a plat for the town of Livermore just a few weeks after the railroad was completed. The top of the plat was the property Mendenhall had given to the railroad station. Ladd could not give any land to the railroad since he didn't have a deed. Mendenhall gave Calvin J. Stevens the first 5-acre lot, lot number 1 of the plat, on the condition he built a flour mill. This rendering is from 1876 and has an overview of Calvin Simmons lot number 1. This is the flour mill. This is Stevens' warehouse alongside the tracks. This is the Independent Order of Odd Fellows Hall. It's a 2-story building that was built in 1874 and still stands today. It's considered the second oldest building in Livermore, still standing. Of course, the Magnolia Saloon was on the corner. The junction of Livermore Avenue and First Streets is still called Mill Square. Other lots along the station site were quickly bought up by former Ladsville businessmen. The San Jose Mercury noted the town was springing to life 2 years after it was platted. Livermore boasts 5 hotels, a flour mill, 2 blacksmith shops, a machine shop, 7 stores, a young ladies seminary, 3 livery stables, tailors, doctors, shoemakers, lawyers, loafers, and whiskey mills innumerable. Warehousing and shipping of farmers' crops became a major income for the town. Cattle were still driven to market. However, saloons, which had proliferated in Ladsville, became the greatest number of the town's individual businesses. The first newspaper printed in Livermore was the Enterprise in 1874, it had 7 saloon ads in its first edition. That's in 1874. Most of the saloons made their own beer, wine, and whiskey. Of course, only the most expensive drinks were ever imported. Several saloons called themselves breweries. However, what they brewed was generally not very good and was often called rot gut, or we would call it that today. Some also sold tobacco and cigars, as they spelled it. Since many also sold food, there were no restaurants in town at that time except in the hotels. One of the saloons actually made good beer. That became a major producer known as the Livermore Brewery and exported beer throughout the county. Several property owners introduced the concept of incorporating the town. An editorial in the Enterprise noted, "The bugbear of increased taxation and ruination is folly to the business portion of our community." Property owners voted 26 in favor of incorporation and 22 against. Mind you, only men landowners were voters. Okay, this was the map that was submitted for the town of Livermore, and the town limits were here. This is what we call the Northern Edition. This was the original town plat, and this is the McLeod tract. They were added to the original incorporation. The town was officially incorporated on April the 1st, 1876. An election a couple of weeks later was necessary to create the town council and local officers. 2 tickets on the ballot were composed of prominent citizens on opposing sides of the taxation arguments. The election results were announced in the Enterprise with the following introduction. The maiden election. These country elections are funny things, queer excitements, pistols and coffee, disputes and whiskey. Who invented elections? Members of both tickets were elected as trustees, and Andrew McLeod became the first mayor. Rules of order were adopted, and property taxes to support the town were set at 50 cents per $100 assessed valuation. The tax was reviewed by the town each year, but not changed for many decades. Licensing fees, mostly from the saloons, were the significant portion of the town's budget. Enterprise newspaper's partner, Charles Lays, gave a synopsis of the town on the 4th of July in 1876. The area of the town is nearly 950 acres with a residential population of 830 souls, occupying 234 buildings, 148 of which are private houses, 91 being classed as follows: 1 post office, several general stores, 1 dry goods, 2 tailors, 4 milliners, 2 laundries, 3 shoemakers, 2 bakeries, 1 flour mill, 4 butchers, 3 fruiteries, 2 cabinet makers and undertakers, 4 blacksmiths, 1 tin and stove store, 1 architect, 1 builder, 1 lumberyard, 1 water workshop, and 6 hotels and 1 brewery and 13 saloons. In the 1880s, wine became a major business in Livermore, wine making and wine exporting. A few years later, several women proposed making Livermore a dry town. The newspaper noted that saloons represented a significant portion of the town's economy. The editor commented, "The town should not be led by a lot of vain, and notoriety-seeking silly women. The all-male electorate defeated the proposition. The town remained small, growing slowly with the population, but still under 2,000 at the start of the 20th century. It had a full spectrum of shops, financial, medical, and cultural services for the entire valley, and yes, more saloons. Local telephone companies were beginning to be established in 1884. Ranchers in the hills east of town formed the Altamont Barbed Wire Telephone Company. They used their fence line wires to interconnect their telephone service. The initial line connected the Young Ranch on North Flynn Road with the Sweet Ranch on Patterson Road. The line was the first rural phone line in Northern California and operated for over 30 years. Balls were the most popular form of evening entertainment before the turn of the century. The first and largest was the Fireman's Ball. It was annually produced by the Fireman's Band as a fundraiser. Fundraising balls became quite common among nonprofit associations and clubs. Some balls organized by individuals were purely social events. Performances by school students and groups, as well as visiting artists, also provided occasional evening entertainment. The Sweeney Opera House was built on the southwest corner of McLeod and First Streets. It opened with the Fireman's Ball, given by the Livermore Concert Band, which was formerly known as the Fireman's Band. The band also presented the annual 4th of July Ball. The main hall with the balcony could seat 800 people. It was mostly used as a dance hall, but could not be called that because a 20-year-old ordinance forbid dance halls or houses of ill fame. Other dances and major social events were held there. It was the largest hall in Alameda County and hosted traveling vaudeville, opera, music, and theatrical productions. Our National Guard unit held its weekly drills on the main floor, and its headquarters were on the second story. The hall was destroyed by fire just after World War II. This was the first car in Livermore. It's a Haynes Apperson. It was bought by Dr. W.S. Taylor in 1903. He found it very helpful for getting around, not just in town, but around town on all of the dirt roads. Almost nothing had been paved yet. During an especially wet and cold spell, the newspaper noted, several local automobilists have learned better than to leave water in the radiators on nights when the temperature is far below freeze. They are something like sieves in the morning after. Moving pictures were first shown at the Foresters' Ball in Sweeney's Opera House in 1901. The Bell Theater initially opened in 1909 on 2nd and J Streets, and then moved into the Scanoni building when it was completed. Known that many of us have pronounced the name of that building Shinoni. It's spelled that way. However, the family still uses the original Italian pronunciation Skinoni. When the talkies were introduced, the theater was rebuilt and opened as the State Theater with upgraded sound. The State Theater was a fixture in downtown until the Vine Cinema was opened in 1956. Saloons continued to be the largest number of businesses even during Prohibition. With Prohibition, most of the saloons were transformed into coffee shops, soft drink parlors, gambling houses, and a juice bar. During Prohibition, what was available in the back room of most former saloons wasn't mentioned. Tunnels were dug from downtown businesses connecting to secret booze stashes. One tunnel even crossed under First Street. Frank Gardella's soft drink parlor had a back room with a 20-foot deep hole in the floor and rocks at the bottom, so that if the feds came in the front door, open bottles could be dropped down the hole, destroying evidence of selling liquor. The Hub Saloon was started in 1892 on the northwest corner of First and Livermore by Norman McLeod, the son of Andrew McLeod. Until the onset of Prohibition, it was the most popular watering hole for the who's who in town. Artist Vasco Delorio was a regular at the Hub in 1910. He drew portrait caricatures of many of the distinguished patrons. His drawings signed Vasco included town trustees, sheriff, marshal, judge, dentist, and many others. These are Peter Wilson, the last 49er in town, and James Sweeney, the sheriff. The Vasco drawings were exhibited at the Hub, and they were subsequently displayed at Croce's restaurant and then Danbury's saloon after Prohibition. Wente, Concannon, and Buena Vista wineries continued operating, making sacramental wines. Anna Sieg, a Livermore Heritage Guild co-founder, noted, researching the history of Wente, noted that the company never admitted selling wine out the back door during Prohibition. However, a longtime former Wente employee noted men had to find a way to feed a family. The Heritage Guild recorded an audio interview with Herbert Hageman in the early 1960s. Hageman was the last owner, one of the last owners of the historic Hageman Ranch. He was also co-founder of the Guild and its first president. Hageman quoted that brothers Jack and Frank Gardella led a big ring of bootleggers up and down the coast, and some of our major people in the country area, in the county area, were part of it. Earl Warren, the eventual Supreme Court judge, was one of the big people in it. Yeah, at the time he was district attorney for the county. Yes, it was incredible. Jack Gardella was the front. He sold the stuff. Hageman added, I can remember my dad bought an old Dodge, probably a 1960 car. The only thing that worked on the dashboard was the oil gauge. He was going to have some kind of great get together. So he went to Jack Gardella to get some liquor. And what he did is he'd take your car and go get it and bring it back to you. Then he'd drive away in his own car. Yeah, he'd go get it for you wherever the secret place was. I don't know where it was. He was a character, but I can remember he came back and said, why didn't you bring your good car? Suppose I had to make a quick getaway. There was a big investigation going on, and they raided the still. They raided the whole thing. The whole organization, it was up for grabs. So the organization made a deal, but somebody had to go to the slammer. So they paid Jack Gardella to do it. He went to San Quentin for, I don't know how many years, 2 or 3 or whatever. As soon as Earl Warren was made governor, he pardoned Jack Gardella. And when he came out, he got $400 a month, which in Depression days was a lot of money. Every 2 years, he got a new LaSalle or Cadillac. That went on for years and years. Of course, like the payment, the new car and so much a month, there's no way to prove it except I heard of it from Jack Gardella's nephew. The town's population exceeded 3,000 for the first time in the 1930 census. The Board of Trustees, still thinking the growth of the Roaring Twenties would continue, felt it was time to upgrade the town to a city. They had the voters approve the concept, then simply declared the town a city. The town trustees became known as the City Council, but nothing really changed other than the return of legal liquor sales 2 years later. Livermore's population remained small into the 1950s. It did not really start becoming a modern city until the population rose rapidly with the establishment of the labs and the later completion of the interstates. Liquor sales to this day remain ubiquitous in the city. I think I'll stop there and answer a few questions.
You mentioned a Mr. Spruill in relation to the escaped bear.
Yeah,
Is that any relation to Spruill Plaza at Berkeley?
it could possibly be. It was Dr. Spruill who lived in, established a medical practice and a drugstore in Ladsville, then moved to Livermore. I don't know what happened to his children. Could very well have been. Yeah.
Out in front of the city hall, there's a Gardella Green. Is that the
Yep.
same guy?
Yes.
Okay, well, I guess it's,
Well, actually, there was a big Gardella family, and it may not have been the actual same guy, but I think one of his brothers was the mayor at one time.
I was gonna, not so much a question, but my uncle, he's 95, and when he was a kid, they used to bring in, his summer job was he would go to the train station and they would train in cattle and they would drive them down South Livermore to East Avenue and then down East Avenue, and that housing tract just before you get to the lab, Muller's had a feedlot there. And so that's where they would take the cattle and fatten them up before they would run them back onto the trains and then send them to the city. So those would be cattle that would come in to be fattened. So we had kind of a feedlot down there. And I always thought that was kind of interesting. Someone asked me one time, did they ever run cattle through Livermore? And they did on a quite regular basis.
I have a photograph somewhere of cattle being run across First Street to Railroad Avenue to go to the railroad.
Yeah. Very cool.
All right. Try to keep it on time.
All right, and as always, a choice of a red wine, a white wine, sir, for you, or olive oil. Olive oil, yes, sir. We have here from the Prohair Estate. Thank you very much. All right. And in the back, we have a number to be called, and that number is
the ticket number, last four digits, 4848.
4848.
And we do have some of Alan's books here at the back for sale for $20, and he's willing to sign them.
$20 and a signed copy. All right. And next week, we will be talking about the fire service with Jeff. All right. Have a wonderful week.